It is 11:40, I think. Is it 11:40? Am I wrong? 11:41. I am 1 minute behind schedule. Now, what do we do about that? We fix it in the edit. We'll never know. We'll never know. So, welcome to the Young Talk Podcast. This is Father B, and I'm speaking to you from the depths. This episode is going to be coming out on Halloween time. Is this a Halloween episode? Previous episode is actually out right now. So you should watch that one before you watch this one, just in case you miss anything, you miss any details. But happy Halloween. Tonight we are going to it is going to get spooky. It's going to get spooky as fuck. So if you enjoy this type of content, you got to hit subscribe. You got to hit the buttons, dude. You got to engage me, just hit the buttons so that way we can continue. I need your help in that department. That's the only thing I'm asking of you. Things only Little Yachty has. Yeah. Okay. What is going on?
Owns a remote-controlled eyeball, a touchscreen toaster, an arcade machine with 80,000 games, this weird-ass couch, an automatic glow-in-the-dark toilet, rolls of $100 bill toilet.
An automatic glow-in-the-dark toilet. Why is it automatic? Why does it glow in the dark? Why is it all in the toilet?
Couch, an automatic glow-in-the-dark toilet, rolls of $100 bill toilet paper, a
$100 bill toilet paper.
Rubik's Cube of his own head.
A Rubik's Cube of your own head. Why?
He messed up and can't solve. An action figure of himself. Another action figure of himself. A giant
That's
pencil,
fine.
Giant M&Ms.
That's fine.
Jenga set.
That's
Smart
fine.
Toothbrush with an app.
A smart toothbrush. A smart toothbrush.
Brush.
A smart toothbrush. I don't.
Self-playing piano, a Mr. Beast Feastables vending machine, a solid gold pencil bracelet, $500 tank top, an Xbox with a built-in screen.
An Xbox with a built-in screen? I didn't even know they make those.
Screen and Applejack Pop-Tarts. Lil Yachty.
Wow. Lil Yachty is spending his money in the right way. I ain't gonna even lie. He has so much shit that should make people say that. Like, this is crazy. He has a Rubik's Cube of his own face, a remote control eye, a touchscreen toaster, an arcade game with 80,000 games, sure, a weird ergonomic square, a glow-in-the-dark automatic toilet, rolls of $100 bill toilet paper, a couple action figures of himself, which is, I would imagine, is pretty normal, pretty cool. I think everybody would. Giant pencil, giant M&Ms, Louis Vuitton Jenga set, a smart toothbrush with an app, self-playing piano, because why not? Mr. Beast vending machine, golden bracelet, $500 tank top, an Xbox with a built-in screen, coolest thing on this list, and Applejack's Pop-Tarts. He's my role model. He's what I want to be when I grow up, to be honest, because that shit sounds crazy. Like, you're never bored. You're never bored. You have so many weird shit to kind of just goof around with. Like, I'd fuck around with the toaster just because. So we're going to get into a little bit more of a seriouser topic. Which is mental health. And we said we would talk about the anxious generation. So let's do that. This video, Boys to Men, Why America's Sons Are Struggling. I've had this video on my list for a bit. This is a CBS report. Okay. This is a CBS report. I don't remember what the first 2 minutes were even about. More boys. I don't know how to intro this. Men, yeah.
It's cool to not care as a boy. You won't ask for help because you don't want to be seen as weak.
America's young men are falling behind at school, at work, and at home.
Society has these stigmas on the man.
It's the latest development in a seismic shift decades in the making.
We tore up the old script for women. We said, no, the future's female. You go, girl. Future president. Women can be anything. Incredibly inspiring, empowering script that we put around girls and young women now. What's the new empowering, exciting, and inspiring script for men that we've replaced that old one with? We didn't replace it.
CBS Reports explores how boys and men are navigating a new reality.
The messages you get from the culture is that men should throw off anything that reeks of tradition and embrace anything that smells like modernity.
There's so many successful women who are well-educated, and they want a person who makes at least the same income as them or more.
Welcome, guys, to Access Vegas.
And the online ecosystem calling out to those left confused and struggling. There are probably people who would look at your program and listen to your pod and then listen to this interview and say, this guy's full of
I would feel bad if I didn't have 4,000 guys telling me that this worked.
There's like a lot of like these influencers now that try to tell kids nowadays to use steroids and stuff like that.
It's really appealing, especially to younger men who are like, well, I'm not sure what masculinity looks like. This guy has a roadmap and he's telling me what it is.
Okay, a lot to take in there. So essentially, we're talking about Boys to Men, Why America's Sons Are Struggling is the title. And we're talking about how young boys are looking to red pill content, essentially, or looking to the internet, essentially, for what it means to be a man or masculine. Thankfully, a lot of the red pill era has simmered down quite a bit. Yeah, I think it's a scary conversation to have because I don't know why or what leads to that. And I think it's a misunderstanding of what it means to be a man. Because, even looking at this image is like it has kid shoes and then it has like these business dress shoes or whatever. And I'm like, this is such a weird portrayal of what that means because like a lot of the men I know don't wear shoes like that. They just wear regular shoes or boots or whatever. They're working class men. I think the imagery of what we have as masculine has always been skewed one way, whether it's in entertainment or whatever. So I don't know if that's necessarily a problem of what's online, but it's like it just seems like more of a conversation that's not happening at home. So being a man, I mean, I think it's so weird to tell people whether it's from boys to men or girls to women. I think at the end of the day, it's always going to be the same. Treat people how you want to be treated and try to make the best choices in life. That's it. You just, I don't know, don't try to murder anyone. Don't do anything that's going to get you in jail for life. Make it possible to not be a nuisance. I think that's about it. Like that, to me, that's about as simple as it always gets because you're going to make bad decisions. Everybody make bad decisions. That's normal. I think you just have to leverage what those bad decisions are going to be, right? There ain't no way I'm going to go and try and break into someone's car and go for a joyride, at least not as a black man, because that could end with my life. But I might litter. I don't know. Like, like there's levels to like doing bad things and good things and figuring out what is proper or it isn't. But I think it's the imagery and the framing that we put online that makes it hard to know because being masculine or being successful, when I'm like, that's not the same thing. You don't need to be, right? Because I think about gay men and I'm like, gay men, I don't think they frame masculinity as the same way. I think it's more so about being comfortable in your own skin, being comfortable in your own emotional intelligence and I think if we want to speak on it on a society thing about men, I think it's about one of the things that I think is simplest is you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to always be around people, they would frame it as men, but you just want to be around other people who you can always learn something from or gain something from or be curious about something with. To me, that's always been the best, whether it's man or woman, where it's just, if I'm in a space where I can kind of understand like, okay, I can actually gain something here. I can actually understand some type of wisdom here, whether it's simple or deep or complicated, whatever. Because I think in that in turn helps you gauge how to not just make decisions, but how to approach different situations at the end of the day. If you're someone who's focused on being a provider or a safeguard, a security for people in your life, then I don't know if it's best to lead with that type of thing. I think it's great if you can be, but trying to lead with that always, I think it's going to lead you to failure because you may not have that type of life. You may just be someone who's doing your own thing. You don't need to provide for other people. You can just kind of do your thing and that's perfectly fine. But I think when you frame it and like, this is what it is versus this, and this is how you need to be, it sets a confusing path to go on because I don't think there is no right or it's just you do what makes you happy as long as what makes you happy doesn't hurt other people. But I think that's also universal. I don't think that's just boys to men. I think for some reason boys just are having a harder time engaging that or understanding, finding that path because they've probably been misled to believe happiness is a career as opposed to their ability with the self. So let's take a look. This is as much as I've ever seen in this video. So let's see what the issue is. I mean, I imagine it's red pill content.
Stevens is captain of the varsity soccer team, while Navarro plays linebacker on the football team.
At least they're tossing the ball. At least they're
Navarro
tossing the
lives with
ball.
his mother Rosa in an apartment near school. He's one of the roughly 20% of minors in the U.S. parented by a single mom.
20%?
Divorced before he was.
Wait. Oh, okay, hold
Of
on.
minors in the U.S. parented by a single mom.
20% of minorities in the U.S. are parented by a single mom. Okay.
The roughly 20% of minors in the
I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep doing that. That's based on the census. That's actually a lot less than I thought. That's actually a lot less. It's a lot, but it's still a lot less, you know?
Parented by a single mom. His parents divorced before he was a year old. And from the ages of 4 to 6, his father was in prison.
Jesus.
So I love wearing stuff like this. Like, it's literally just like, it's just different. And nobody else is like really wearing stuff like this at school. Like, it has like a whole bunch of rhinestones on it.
He says in middle school he dealt with a lot of anger issues. But now that he's nearing graduation and adulthood, he's been thinking a lot more about the kind of man he wants to be.
Every person is different, and like every young boy just like gets to decide what man they want to be. And I feel like the type of man that I would want to be is just definitely like dependable and open to the unknown.
Navarro's classmate Ashton Stevens is one of the nearly 70% of U.S. minors living in a two-parent household.
70% two-parent household.
And proud brother to 2 sisters.
I keep the boards around just because I like the vibe. Every time I get a board or break it, I'll just throw it on the wall.
Stevens says he's also spending more time these days thinking about his future.
The kind of man I want to be when I get older is a man who gives, a man who's willing to work hard. The word strength is a very broad word, and when you say, I am strong, yeah, that at face value, that means like, I'm strong. It could mean so much more. Mentally strong, like, I feel like there's a lot of levels to that one word.
Both Stevens and Navarro's mother say they are immensely proud of their sons, but share similar concerns about the challenges confronting this generation of boys and men.
Society has these stigmas on a man and like the pressures of a man and what a man is.
Stevens' mom, Joanna, struggles with how to encourage.
I feel like it's right when you introduce that conversation is when the problem comes up. I think if a young man, a young boy who's about to graduate high school, if they're already thinking about the type of man they want to be, they're already on the right path. I think whether you're a man or a woman, I think if you're someone who's thinking about how you want to like move in life outside of school, then you're already on the path of just trying to do something good. And you already have those like values and traits in you, right? I don't think anyone who has that thought process ends up going down dark paths without extremely bad influences. So both these boys to me seem like they're already on a path. They're excited about their life. They're excited about their future. They seem to have a healthy family dynamic, irregardless of household size. They'll be fine. They will be fine. They're going to make mistakes as young boys, definitely. But I think it just makes it scarier for young boys when it's like, yeah, if they're raised well, they'll be fine. Like they're not going to leave high school and then just suddenly change completely. If they already had signs of being chill or good or intelligent or aware, like that the world is this or that, or that these things are out there, they'll be fine. Because whether they become exposed to it or not, they'll still have like a conscience and be like, oh, I wouldn't want to do this because this is not how I'm raised, So so far, I don't know. I'm not worried about them. I guess the scary thing is if like there's stuff out there that turns young boys from that mindset to a more negative or a toxic mindset. Because I've never seen something like that. I usually, if some dude has some traits of like toxic masculinity or is like just a douchebag or whatever, it's pretty prominent from the time that they're children. Most of the time, most dudes are just dudes who are worried about becoming that. But 9 times out of 10, they don't because, they have values. So it's like, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious of what other age groups they hit. So far, these two I'm not worried about.
An issue she says she doesn't have with her daughters.
With girls, you need to make sure that they are, strong. It's easy to say, you need to be strong, you need to be independent, you need to, look after yourself and be in control. And with boys, you can't really say that, because if you tell a boy you need to be in control, it just sounds wrong. And both boys and girls are important, because I have a daughter who's an amazing kid, who's successful, who's strong, who's independent. And then I have a son who I also want the same for him.
But that's the thing though. It's like you already have that for him. You can tell him like you do need to be in control because you're a dude. Sometimes you'll get angry, and whether or not you know it or not, like you have these emotions in you that it's okay to have. But at the same time, bro, if you get mad, you got to learn to take a breath. Right? You can treat him in the same mental health capacity as your daughters, because they're raised under the same house. There's a certain level that you need to give, but after a certain point, it's like you also got to let them explore who they are. Maybe it's more, he comes from a two-parent household though, so it's not like, I don't know if it's a lack of father in the house. Maybe that's what it is. But even then, like, I got to see my dad every so often. I was still raised under a household where it was like, the way you go about life is going to be your decision. Just understand all those decisions have consequences. So good or bad, you make the decision. And the only thing I learned as a man is like you stick by your decisions that you make. You stick by your word, and that's pretty much the gist of it, because that's where the respect comes from. That's where the strength comes from, is like when you make the decisions that you stand on, you keep the values that you believe on. And, if you say you're going to do something, then you do it, you make it happen. That's pretty much how it works. And you say if you can't do it, because sometimes you're not the dude, you're not that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And I think starting with that and then just letting them go out and decide for themselves is the best you can do, because if they don't know what to do, they'll come to you for help. They should, if you develop that relationship, as I did. When I got lost, I was always on the phone with my dad or my mom, asking about this or that, or how to deal with this or that. And it got to a point to where it's like, now I don't necessarily need to anymore. Sometimes, yeah, but like they've given me enough tools for me to like use my brain and trust me enough, I think, to recognize the good and the bad and explore them as a young man. I think we got to be open to that. So
Is there amongst young men
maybe it's harder these days though, because of content,
sense of confusion about what it means to be masculine?
Shit, I watch
today?
horror movies.
Yeah. I in some ways, the big question that young men are asking today is, how should I be a man? And that's because there isn't a clear script anymore for what that looks like.
Richard Reeves runs the American Institute for Boys and Men, a nonpartisan think tank focused on research and advocacy.
Why the need? Why did you decide to start this?
It's a much more challenging time for young men to figure out their place in the world than it was. And then you add to that the fact that we have massive education gaps.
Boys are lagging behind girls in school, especially in reading, and they're less likely to go to college.
Today, it's women who are 15 percentage points more likely to get a degree than men.
We've flipped the gender gap, and actually women are a bit further ahead of men today on college campuses than men were in the early 70s, which is...
But that's not because men don't know what they want to do. That's because now we're getting into what actually happened, which is the issue of the red pill content, right? And that's where the switch happened, because most men now realize they don't need to go to college. They can make their own businesses. They can go and stream, in high school and start making YouTube content, and then they can make a bunch of money and get a bunch of bitches, and that's pretty much what happened. There's a time period, I don't know if it's still happening, but there was a time period where they were just on this weird mind grind set because of the red pill community, making it seem like in order for boys to be successful, they have to be entrepreneurs at the age of 12. And so they can do that now, especially with streaming content, especially with shit like Twitch or YouTube, where they can just make content either on the things that they like or emulating these red pill alpha male classes or whatever, relaying it to their fellow peers about like how they can get ahead of the curve or whatever. And that's the issue, because children, teenagers and all that, they need to play. They don't need to grind. They just need to play. They need to develop those elements of their life. When they lose sight of that, then they start to lose sight of where they should be going in place. Because right now what we're talking about isn't really about how to be a man, is about how to feel like you are moving through life with some sense of purpose. And for a lot of young boys, they're never given that sense of purpose. They're just told to get a job or work out or whatever, get a wife, but all these things are not very specific. And that's kind of the point of life. Life isn't specific. There's no right or wrong way. Follow your heart, follow your passions, make honest friendships, make honest connections. That's it. Everything else just comes from that initial framework. What do you want to do? You want to work in video production. Cool. Go to college, learn how to do it. Hopefully get a job, make some friends, make some videos, build a network. You don't need to start your own business. There's plenty of them out there. Go join one. Go get into it. Go get involved. And then guess what? Somewhere along the way, you'll meet a girlfriend, maybe a couple, get a wife, eventually have some kids, get married, and guess what? You've done it. You've done all the things. The problem is that's not true anymore because most people come out of college not able to get those jobs. And then most people, or they try to do their entrepreneurship and then it tanks because that's pretty much the case for most people that start their own businesses. They don't make it. It's not easy. And so young men have followed this track record of if they, do these things, if they're successful in these small areas as children, then it'll lead towards this idealistic life, which is not true. They realize they can shortcut the process when the process is the point. You don't need to worry about this stuff in middle school. I think it's great if you're in high school as a senior and you're like, what college do I want to go to? What has the best program for what I'm trying to study? These are normal thoughts. But I guess the problem is that teenagers aren't thinking like this probably post COVID anymore, because they don't know if the degree they're searching for is even relevant. They don't know if it even matters. And they don't even know if they'll be able to get into the job market. So it's like, okay, I can't be successful in the way that I thought if you're not someone who wants to make content, or let's say, and even then you have to make enough to make a living off of, which is a lot of money. It's no wonder young boys are struggling figuring this out because young girls have a so much simpler route if they are struggling for money. They can just go and use the sexualization of media to make money, right? Which is also a very sad reality. Young men can't hop on OnlyFans and have all their problems solved, unfortunately, right? So they are at a loss because the content creation market is so saturated that you have to now break through so many different ceilings in order to just get noticed. And even then, in order to do that, they're looking for videos that are viral, that are going crazy. And at the time, especially within like the past 4 years, things that got young boys viral are being douchebags, being assholes, talking about their struggles with the dating, getting into red pill content, learning how to work out or whatever. They're gravitating towards the basic things that young boys are drawn to, which is exercise, video games, women, but that's all being turned up to the extreme to where they think these are the only things that matter when it's not. There are so many other things in life that you can pursue that will give you so much more fulfillment and a sense of being a man. But they don't understand that because a lot of that stuff they're not exposed to anymore. How often does a boy want to just play a piano or some shit? You know what I mean?
Title 9 and had a really concerted push around kind of helping women. In the average school district, boys are about a grade level behind in English. So we see very, very big gaps in the education system and in mental health. And I think that then flows into employment, family life, and so on.
From 1970 to 2020, the percentage of men participating in America's labor force fell nearly 5%. During the same period, the percentage of men getting married also fell by twice as much.
Young men and boys are falling further and further behind. Many are disconnected, sort of disaffected, don't have a clear life path.
Delano Squires is a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation with a focus on family and education.
The second wave feminist movement was extremely successful at directing resources towards women and girls, whether that's in terms of education, in terms of the economy, in political representation.
Help me reconcile, because I think this is a point that many Americans would be confused by. The highest echelons of power, whether in the corporate world or in government, are largely held by men.
I think part of that is recognizing the generational divide. The crisis is generally speaking among younger men, right? So that's why we're talking about boys and men. The people in power obviously are older men, and eventually they're going to transition from those roles.
The median
i.e., they're going to die.
age of both Fortune 500 CEOs and members of the House of Representatives is about 57.
Now, what's cool about this, too, this is actually very relevant. This is the most important part of anything. And I've been noticing this for like 15 years, bro. Why is everybody that's in power so old? Like, everybody that can actually make changes in the world are so fucking old. Even Obama said this shit in the post a few weeks ago. He was like, the problem is all these old people are holding on to their positions instead of allowing the younger generation to finally fill in those spots. There's this massive buildup of young people that want to do so many things, but they're all filtering towards all these like simpler, whether it's content creation, entrepreneurship, whatever. It's like none of them are pushing towards these other things that actually move the government. Not as much as we need, because we have all these fucking old people in these positions that don't want to move. We need to get these old people out the way so that young men and women can see that there's opportunity. Because the thing is, right? Children have to grow up believing that they can be doctors, lawyers, and the president. And it's not because those are like the most prestigious jobs in the world or anything, but because those are such ambitious dreams to have that it will drive children to want to become the best versions of themselves in what they do. Find the thing that really speaks to them, whether it is space or environmental studies or medicine or science. That's the whole point of STEM, right? That's the whole point of all these programs and things like that. At least back in the day, don't know if they have them now. Children are supposed to be inspired to fill in these roles so that way these old people can fucking leave. And when these old people don't leave, children stop becoming inspired by things because they never see these things change. They never see the rotation. They never see younger people pursuing these things. So all they do is do what every other younger person is doing, making a lot of money easily, simply doing the things that they love. And that's the things on Twitch, YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, whatever the fuck they're on, right? Why would I go for a job in government when I can make money making Minecraft videos? But those Minecraft videos are not gonna be the thing that changes climate. You know what I mean? Unless that person making those Minecraft videos are spending their entire Minecraft video breaking down the importance of climate change, which they're not, right? They're not doing that to their audience. So their audience isn't learning about that, or they're not providing that level of insight of these issues that we do need to focus on, that we do need to feel important about. Because everybody's fucking old in these spaces and they don't realize that all the young people are on this digital shit. They're only realizing it now. And we only have things like podcasts and things like that for these older politicians to get on these platforms and try and reach the younger audience and try and convince them that these jobs are cool, exciting, and interesting. When I'm like, yeah, they've always been, but you all just held on too much and have made it all look like a fucking joke. So now no one's drinking the Kool-Aid. Should have did better. Should have retired. But that's the issue.
While only
57 is
28%
fucking
of the members of
ridiculous.
Congress are women.
40
The number of
would be
women
better.
sworn into the most recent Congress represented a 44% increase compared to 10 years
We need.
ago.
We just need a new one. Just get a new one.
There are more Fortune 500 CEOs, I think, named like John, David, and Mike than there are female Fortune 500 CEOs, period. But the thing is, most men are not Fortune 500 CEOs. And these men who are succeeding extremely in their fields, they're doing great, but they don't necessarily represent all men or even the majority of men.
They represent the 1%.
Christine Emba is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and author of Rethinking Sex, A Provocation.
Pretty much since the founding of the United States, political thinkers and ideas people have been bemoaning the state of American men. First, it was that the frontier closed and American men didn't have anywhere else to explore. Then it was that the world wars had decimated men. Eventually, that turned into sort of an obsession with how unfit physically men were getting. So this has always been sort of a question that's being asked of men. However, I do think that in this moment, men maybe are facing an identity crisis. One of the things that a lot of the young men I've talked to mention when I'm asking them about masculinity and manhood and where they get their ideas of how to be a man from is male role models.
Yes. Hey, I have a tie for you. All right.
When I think about the male role models that, inspire me, yeah, none of them are the Kevin Samuels or like the S&P 500 type people, because I'm like, yeah, you guys, your lives are just simply so far different than mine from birth that I can't use your path as a way to go. But we can look at someone like Abba and Preach, or even just my own dad, or even the black men that I've met in this community, where it's like we're all on the ground floor here. We're all broke. We all understand that concept of struggling to make ends meet, not just for a time being, but as an entire lifetime. And understanding that, I think it really does help you find that relevancy or that issue. Because it's like, I was lucky enough to grow up in an environment where literally all the black men in my life, all my uncles, cousins, and things like that, even if they deal drugs, did this, did that, whatever, the only things I ever saw from them were these moments of parenting or discussing things with each other about the way things are, or even them just trying to provide some type of level of like, hey, in life, this type of shit, this type of thing, this type of issue, here's how you get out of it, right? This is how you handle these scary things, whatever. That's pretty much almost always been the course of action, like where it was like they never wanted me in the streets or doing things that can get me locked up, or they never encouraged that type of stuff. And I know that's not true for a lot of young black men, but I'm like, for me, that's definitely shaped my perception of like where what what paths are very clear to follow, what paths I should definitely just avoid following statistically. So I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. If they're like looking, when young boys are looking for role models, the more likely ones that they're gonna find and look towards when it comes to like masculinity will more than likely be like their male teachers, right? People that they can relate to, people that they can see themselves in, or people who do have a level of authority that can be broken down through a level of comfort and relatability. Like you can be scared of your teacher for a bit, right? When you don't know them, but when your teacher decides to be the cool teacher and let their guard down and kind of let you know, like, you guys don't have to be so worried here. We can relax, we can have fun, we can learn all those things. I'm still a human, right? That's when the male teacher becomes the cool teacher that you can come and talk to, because he's not just some authority fixture, like image with in a suit and tie. He's like, he gets it. He gets your uncertainty, your anxiety, your insecurity. So I think that's where it comes from. I don't know what it's like in schools these days, but I'm like, if you don't have these environments growing up, then yeah, I guess it makes sense. You struggle with trying to figure out where that identity is, and you latch on to really bad ones if those are the ones you find first. You don't find out and Preach first, and you find Fresh and Fit first, right? So it sucks because you don't develop the awareness of bad actors. Maybe that can
Will
change.
say my dad wasn't in the house, or like I don't really have sort of older men around me who like taught me how to be a man.
Aaron, take one big deep breath in through the nose.
Hold on. Can we look at this? Hold on. What is that? At the Men's Work Project, we work to understand our emotions, take ownership of them, lift each other up, not tear each other down, hold ourselves and each other accountable so that we can grow into the kind of men that we are proud to be real, not fake, or perform for others, and help build a safer, kinder school and world. Stuff like this is obviously very good. Every school doesn't have this, which is right the issue. I don't think, from what I understand, we didn't have anything like this in my high school, any type of program or young men to like exercise these issues that they may face. Obviously not in middle school either, or elementary school. It wasn't until college that I even found resources for not just for black men, but just for young men in general who are struggling with mental health and like that sense of identity crisis or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I wonder, because the only thing, I mean, there were clubs, like I had ROTC in high school, and to me that felt like a safer space to explore my own masculinity and leadership and shit like that, just because that's exactly what they teach without it being harmful. So I had just a lot of great mentorship, both in my own family and in the education system. I also had teachers who were black, and I got to see that from so many different levels, whether it was in elementary school, middle school, and high school. I saw a black math teacher. I saw a black English teacher. I saw a black woman English teacher. I saw so many different versions of what it meant to be a black man that, yeah, I was never on board with just a simple way of describing masculinity, because I'm like, that's not always true. Being buff isn't always true. Being a hard ass isn't always true. Being caring isn't always true. Sometimes there are black men that wear glasses, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I don't remember the first time I saw a black man with glasses, but I don't need glasses. My dad doesn't need glasses. Never knew my grandfather, and none of my uncles or anything like that ever really wore glasses except for one. And I only understood people wore glasses because they read a lot. So, the perception of what makes a man masculine, even on that level, is crazy because it's like if you never seen a man wear glasses and then you do, and I like people wearing glasses. I like when I see people because to me it's like, oh, that person's really smart. And then I see a black man wearing glasses. I'm like, oh, he's very smart. That comes from that perspective of literally growing up in an environment where I very rarely saw any black man with glasses, and I associated glasses with intelligence, right? I wish we had more of these programs to help young black men understand, especially in places like Oakland, where you do get certain environments and you do get certain experiences where it's like, this isn't how to move through life. There are ways to be successful. There are ways to feel successful, feel confident, feel whatever, while not doing things that could ruin your life. But a lot of that had to come from the black men in your life. A lot of that had to come from the black men in your life that you see doing those things. Like, I don't know if I would have believed it if my dad wasn't someone who wore do-rag, wasn't someone who smoked or drank or, listened to rap music. Like, if my dad was like buttoned up, shirt tucked in, things like that, business type man, and giving me these lessons, I don't know if I would have received them the same way. I would have probably taken them in, but I feel like I would have rebelled way harder. You know what I mean? I would have been in the streets on the corners. But it's a different thing when you hear from someone who does that stuff and it's like, hey man, this is not the life that you need to live. You can have a better one. My dad always said he always tells us that he wants us to live a life better than the one that he had. I'm like, it's always easier said than done, to be honest, but it is those conversations that matter because it shapes so much of how a kid's going to navigate their life and see the world. I think it's scary too because it destroys their sense of bliss. They need to develop with some level of immaturity, some level of goofiness, and find that balance in it. But it is also important to have them to acknowledge that reality. Having these spaces in high school is great because high school is pretty critical. Middle school is critical, but high school, when they're really questioning these things, it's excellent. It's excellent. So this school's on it. This school's on it.
Big deep breath in through the nose. And side out. We're gonna do one more big deep breath in through the nose, and this time we're gonna bring our hands above our head.
This is Oberlin.
And side out, drop
Oberlin High School.
David Reese is a language arts teacher at Oberlin High School in Ohio. Johnny Cole is Reese's former student and founder of Hey Brother, an organization that seeks to challenge and examine what it means to be a modern man. Every other week during the school year, Cole and Reese lead a group of over a dozen high school boys in lessons and discussions focused on the role of men in today's world, a program they call Men's Work.
So here's a question. When in your life was there a time when you wanted to cry? You felt it. You wanted to cry, but you kind of like stuffed that down.
Every day. Every day. Every day I walk into that fucking building. You want to cry and you're just like, fuck it. No, I'm just clocking. But I think that's such a real statement to start off with, though, is like, yeah, I think something that is really difficult for men in my generation, and obviously I think is goes without saying, men before our generation, about the concept of crying and choosing to stuff that feeling down instead of allowing yourself to do it. It's something that I think about because I'm like, there are some days where it's like I either just feel so stressed out or burnt out or exhausted, and the idea of having to, whether, like, let's say it's Tuesday, and then the idea of having to just go to work on Wednesday and then just kind of like having to keep going, it breaks you down at some point or another because it's like you don't know if you have enough energy to keep going, so sometimes you want to cry and then sometimes you're like, you feel it and you're like, you literally do push it down and you're like, nah, I'm good, I got this, I'm all right, I'll be okay. These are very real things that happen. As a dude, I find it really troubling when you can do that, when you can just stuff that feeling down and prevent yourself from feeling it. It's very scary. It's like stopping a sneeze. Am I gonna sneeze? No, I stopped it. Okay. Is it gonna come back? I don't, and you tell yourself you're good. You tell yourself you're fine, you know, and I'm like, I don't think that's a healthy thing to do because you don't deny yourself happiness when you're happy. When you feel good, right? You don't try and push that feeling down. You allow yourself that because your brain is saying this is good. This is a good thing to feel. Feeling sad is a good thing. Feeling angry, upset, down, all these are good emotions. They're normal. So when you decide to tell yourself you're not allowed to feel that, you know, you're not doing anything other than delaying that reaction. And that reaction is going to come back. It's going to come back out. It's going to come out more volatile than what it would have been. And it's probably going to come back at someone that you didn't intend for it to come at. So I think that's right. That's the heart of the danger when it comes to young men and having that emotional strength to let themselves feel the bad stuff and not feel like they're necessarily weak, but you're just human, you know. Some things make you sad,
would
and
not
that's
allow
okay.
yourself. Who here has lost a pet?
Me. We've all lost pets.
Why do you think there's a hunger for this now?
Because people are lost. My guess, there's a hunger for this now because people are actually lost. Not just men, not just boys. Everybody is fucking lost. This country is, you know, we're taking it day by day. And I think that's a scary thing because when the country has to take it day by day as opposed to the individual, we're all lost and we all are uncertain about the future. so many things are just making the future uncertain at the same time. You know what we need? We need like just Galactus or some shit to just come into the earth, bust in the atmosphere and be like, hey, everything's okay. It's all going to work out. It's all good. And then disappear. Give everybody a level of assurance that we're all going to be okay or something. Because I think everybody is at their nerves are just shot. We all feel it and we're all coping with it with these ways that we have learned to cope with stress. And for boys, you know, for men, it's to ignore these emotions. But when the situations go beyond the simple, right? Go beyond the simple resolutions. It's like boys are worried about a future always and always have been. But now they're really worrying about a future and where in which they may not necessarily just have a career. They may not be able to have a girlfriend, let alone a wife. They may not be able to afford where to live, where to eat. They may not even, you know, may not be hanging out with friends. Like pretty much every aspect of life that most people look forward to as an adult is being held in question to such an degree that they just lost, man. They don't know if there's even a future. They're more in tune to the idea of the world falling apart than it being okay. We've destroyed the concept of a future for these children. And that's on us. That's on us.
Always has been.
On the subject of positive role models and whatnot, you know, this obviously has to start very early in life.
Yeah.
Where are men, or are men in the classroom?
In the 1980s, 1 of 3 K through 12 teachers were men. Today, it's just 1 in 4.
Mhm.
And there have been many headlines in recent years highlighting how boys are falling behind in school.
Yeah. Handing in assignments. Like all my girls are handing in the assignment. And if I've got like 8 boys in the class, maybe 1 or 2 did.
That's crazy.
Educators see boys lagging behind from elementary school through graduation. Prior to middle school, boys are more likely to repeat a grade than girls. And in high school, girls have consistently earned higher GPAs than boys.
For years, people have been saying that the K through 12 education system is not set up for boys, requiring them to sit still for, you know, hours.
I've heard
on
about
end,
this.
Labeling any boy who's a little bit, you know, more rambunctious as having ADHD
Rambunctious.
or some other social issue.
It's cool to not care as a boy. It's cool to be nonchalant. You're struggling in a math class and you won't ask for help because you don't want to be seen as weak. Whereas girls are not socialized to believe it is weak for them to ask for help.
I think there's another layer to that. I think the other layer to that is insecurity and approaching girls at the end of the day. Because if girls are doing better, I remember if I was struggling in a class or something like that, it didn't really matter whether I asked a boy or a girl for help. I just asked whoever was smarter. And there was never an issue of like asking each other for help or even studying together or whatever. But I'm like, it doesn't make sense because if you're a young boy and you're like, let's say you're into girls or whatever, right? Like you have no problem trying to talk to a girl to get her number or whatever. So why this is a weird correlation of culture that's happening, where it's like it's a culmination of shit because back in the day it was more of a nerve-wracking thing to approach a girl because you liked her as opposed to because you need help with things. It's never an issue. It's like if I can copy your notes or if you can help me out learn this thing. Hell, if anything, it'll work to my benefit if I do like you because then you get that one-on-one time, right? So I remember that being not a hard thing to do for most boys. So it's like really what it came down to was they just didn't care about doing it. But then again, I grew up in Oakland, so it's like after a while you just stop giving a fuck. I played Gardenscapes in high school, like you know what I mean? I got to like level 1,000 in one of my classes because I just didn't care. Yeah, I'm curious because if I don't know if it's as simple as if it's a mentality of like I don't care, or if I'm struggling, I'm just not gonna say anything. I think that's a part of it, but I think there's also so many other social things happening for boys nowadays that it's never really been explored, which is like, just playing the field as a boy. Like, bro,
because we have a home football game today.
talk to the smart girl.
Okay, and where do you feel that in your body?
Like in movies, the jocks would date the smart girl or they'd learn from the smart girl. You know what I mean? Like everybody would still go to the smart person in secret if they had to.
That like in my chest, like my arms.
That's
like
it.
my upper body.
That's it. Beautiful. Yeah.
In the 2010s, I think we sort of reached this, I think rather unfortunate, frankly, high water of sort of almost jokey, feminist, progressive movement misandry. We talked about girl bosses and the future being female. And then, of course, the flip side of that was it being okay to be
Facts.
like, men are trash.
Facts.
We don't need men anymore.
Facts.
And I think that also left a lot of men thinking,
Yep.
well,
It made them a little salty. It made them a little salty because the media just fucks so many things up. But, yeah, it's like for young boys, if all you hear for like a majority of your upbringing within the 2010s to like, say 2015, 2017, girl bosses and women are this, women are that, like that's all wonderful for women. But it also is an opposite end of like trashing men and trashing men before they even had a chance to even do anything. It makes men more insecure. Makes them more insecure and it makes them resentful. I'll tell you that much. It makes them say women ain't shit. It makes them want to cheat on girls and have side chicks, because it's like, why fuck with one girl who's just gonna do you wrong or talk shit or post, whatever. That's the rhetoric that was there for a while where it was like, you goofy if you dating one girl. You're goofy if you sticking to one chick. You can be having this bitch, that bitch. That's like, these are the rhetoric. This is the rhetoric in which I grew up in before dating apps. We had to learn about sending each other nudes in high school and why that you shouldn't do that. That was the biggest thing because everybody was talking to each other, sleeping with each other, getting together, sneaking out, doing whatever the fuck. But it was because the dynamic in which boys and girls interacted with each other was just different, right? I imagine in like the 60s, the 50s, or whatever, you like a girl, you court her or you take her out, you get her flowers, you pick her up, you do all these things. Nowadays, in the 20s, it's like, man, fuck that. Buying all these flowers and shit, like you've already done the work. You already built up the courage to even talk to her. And then if the girl's even smart, now you're really insecure because she's just not gonna, unlike in the 90s where everybody was fucking, she's just not gonna give it up now. You gotta be just as smart or just as sensitive or just as whatever. So you see all these emotional changes in the social dynamics of boys and girls. And when it comes to dating, just how crazy that shit got already. In 2010, right? 2008, smartphone. So these things just kind of open the wound more. And I think we just kept with the same concepts of tradition without acknowledging the change in times over time. Tradition doesn't work when you introduce cell phones. Tradition doesn't work when the school dynamic and the education dynamic is different. Traditions just have to change because so many things in life have changed. from the 90s to now, where, or even from the 70s to now, where it's like, yeah, you don't court girls anymore just because it's kind of not the style anymore. So if things are different in that sense, the way we teach our children to interact with each other has to be different when it comes to like building healthy relationships, whether romantic or otherwise. Because if boys don't feel like they can be friends with girls and that they can only like girls or they can only talk to girls if they like them, that's such a dangerous thing. Because it's like it's okay for you to have a friend that's a girl. It's okay to have a best friend that's a girl. And I remember for a long time, growing up, that was like a thing where it was scary, like, these two, oh, he's talking to Sally and type shit, where it's like, I just need help with my homework, or whatever the fuck. I mean, you see that shit all the time. You've seen that shit in movies now, back in the day, but it was true and it was real. Now it's only worse because we never like resolve that.
Okay, if being a man is bad, if masculinity is toxic, what am I supposed to do?
Facts.
Given where we are, where we have a certain portion of the male population
This is gonna be a long
uncertain
ass
about where their
thing.
place is in society, you might say that they're vulnerable to manipulation. They go online.
Yep.
There's a whole host of people who are
Yep.
kind of waiting with, open arm
Yeah.
to grab audience.
And with ready answers. It's not entirely irrational for some boys and young men to feel like their problems, their struggles are not treated with the same level of seriousness and empathy as the struggles of others. And as long as that remains the case, we have left a gap. We have left a psychological vulnerability among those boys and young men to the claim from someone who comes along and says, I get it, you're struggling. True. You know why? They don't care about you. The society, the school, they don't care about you.
I do.
I care about you. And I have the solution to your problem.
Yep.
I think that marriage.
And that's where the problem comes in. Now we intrude. It's been so long since Andrew Tate has been on my screen in any capacity. I don't miss it. I don't miss it. But yeah, that's really where it comes down to, right? Because it's like now when you're looking for answers, you can't feel like you can talk to your dad about girls or anything like that. So then you go online, right? And what do you see? You see fucking Andrew Tate talking all his shit, or Myron, boys being boys type shit. And they're speaking to your issues, the struggles that you face, whether it's online, in person, whatever, and all the things that are true. Women saying men ain't shit, the patriarchy is terrible. Barbie comes out, right? So, what do? You just latch on to that because it's an echo chamber of your negative feelings, as opposed to like just listening like I don't know, a Kirk Franklin or anybody who's actually experienced, life. But I think the problem is it took a lot longer for the Kirk Franklins and things like that to get on these platforms. These red pill guys got on it really quick because it was such an easy way to make money and content. Where it's like, yeah, women ain't shit, especially when the data is prevalent, like, because they're posting that men ain't shit. So it's like, it's easy to just fire back. It was such, I don't miss that shit. I don't miss any of that. Like, all of that shit is terrible. It's just, it makes dating not fun. It makes it all sound like formative. And it just takes all the romance out of it. Like, what the fuck? I blame Matthew McConaughey. He stopped making rom-coms and went into dramas, And we love Interstellar, but like, if he stayed in rom-coms, maybe they'd stay to the classics. I don't know.
Tools that the Western world uses to enslave.
Boys want to be
Women
cool.
have become delusional, and men are completely disenfranchised.
The majority of women definitely, I don't think, should be able
Fucking
to.
Myron.
In recent years, an ecosystem of content has exploded online and on social media, targeting men of all ages, including teen boys. It's become known as the manosphere.
The
There are
manosphere.
thousands of content creators in the manosphere, but one of the most popular, well known for his extreme and misogynistic rhetoric, is former kickboxer Andrew Tate.
Is he still in jail? Is he still like in Romanian jail or something?
The online world is buzzing this morning about a sudden move by Andrew Tate. That hugely popular personality is known for telling his audience that men should dominate the world the way they used to.
Well, it's been proven that the smartest people in the world are men.
So the Manosphere used to be a collection of predominantly online websites and blogs that all had shared a belief men were the oppressed group in society and women
Which
were
is
doing
that's a crazy statement too. Like men were the oppressed group. Like you can't no there's no way anyone says that with like a you can't believe that with a serious statement, you know? With a serious face.
the oppression.
And has done extensive research on the manosphere and the ideology of so-called.
I just watched the woman get slapped for no
The
reason
idea
on a
of
movie.
red pill comes from the Matrix. Neo is offered a red pill and a blue pill. If he takes the red pill, he wakes up and he sees the truth about the society he lives in. With the Manosphere, when they say they're red pilled, what they mean is they have taken the red pill, similarly to Neo, and they've realized that actually
Which is like a dorky way to ruin the Matrix, by the way.
everything they've learned about society before is incorrect. There is no patriarchy, there is no misogyny. In reality, it's women who are in charge and women who are oppressing men and men who are suffering in modern society.
Men and boys hear these messages that sometimes their very presence, their very being is a problem. It's problematized, particularly on the progressive left. What you see in some respects, particularly online, the rise of sort of the red pill communities. And so if people over here say your maleness is a problem, the ones over here say, no, it's good to be a man and you should say that with your head held high, your chest stuck out.
The idea.
This is scary rhetoric because if you replace the word man and all that, right, and you just put it and you replace it with like black, right? And you're saying it's a problem for you to be a black person. It's a problem for you to they're using the same rhetoric that was used in like the civil rights issues for people to like that were real issues, right? Where black people felt like they were rejected by society or that they're viewed this way or that they're immediately a problem. And then they're framing it under it like instead of black people, no, this is all young boys. You are the problem. You're seeing the world makes it feel like you're this, you're that. When I'm like that's so dangerous thing because black people already actually struggle with that. So imagine you being a black boy, a black teenager, right? And then you see that. And so now you're getting that rhetoric in two different instances. Not only are you a problem because you're black, you're now a problem because you're a young boy. You know what happens when that happens? You make movies like Carrie, where you suddenly being born is a sin and you're evil automatically, right? And you then act out on those beliefs. And that's pretty much what the manosphere is. And that's scary because I'm like, yeah, I grew up with that understanding that. And there's just a simple reality that people are going to look at black people differently. Even if they say they don't, they do. Every time I am in line, every time I walk down the street, for some reason, people either look back or move out of my way, sometimes walk right into the street. And I'm like, that's crazy. You would rather get hit by a car than simply walk past me. That's crazy. That's crazy. I hope something happens to you because that's on you. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm literally just trying to make it home. So nothing happens to me. Yet somehow me being here on the street is a problem for you. That's crazy. You stand in line and suddenly people are looking back 5 times in 60 seconds. And I'm just standing there waiting to cash my little few pennies like you. And yet somehow you're afraid of me and I'm 2 feet shorter than you. The fuck? So understanding that and then framing that in the sense of young boys being an issue for just existing, that's a whole destructive issue for young black men growing up with that. Because then they will latch on to Tate and have no reason to let go. Because the entire world is telling them the same thing. It's telling them the exact same thing. So in their mind, Andrew Tate is God. If you're not smart enough to be like, yeah, that's insane, then you're just going to damage yourself. Like I recognize people in this world are going to look at black people the same, at a certain way. Cool for them. I know what I am. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. I'm not going to let some random white person, who feels scared. Sure, they can feel scared. Good for them. Sucks for them, I guess, I'm going to keep walking though. It is what it is that you have. In that context, it is a weight because it makes it hard to go outside and walk around or feel like you can just kind of enjoy the air outside when it's like, I'm more nervous walking past you than you are of me. Putting it in this context for young boys is just absolutely chaotic.
I think the growth of social media and podcasting has made manosphere content much more accessible.
Well,
Before
obviously.
you had to go look for it, right? You had to find a blog that you liked and you had to read it and you had to engage with it, right? A comment on a blog. Whereas now you can just be on social media and an algorithm will pop something up, right?
In a study of TikTok accounts mirroring adolescent boys, each account started off with 13 targeted videos out of 100 that contained misogynistic content. 5 days later, that number jumped to 56. And in less than a week, teen boys were 4 times more likely to encounter sexist content, not by searching, but by algorithms. TikTok did not respond to requests for comment.
Do you follow anyone who might fall into like the manosphere camp?
Yeah, because I like to work out a lot, and I feel like there's like a lot of like these influencers now that try to like tell kids nowadays to use steroids and stuff like that, and it just like I feel like so many kids nowadays are like starting to actually think that this stuff is like cool. Kids at younger ages are starting to like think it's okay.
Do you ever come across or do you follow any influencers who try to tell young men about how to act around women, how to treat women?
Follow like this one dude and like a couple of like other like big like fitness influencers.
What do they say about women? And
like they just like call them like slut and like hoes and stuff like that. I just feel like that's just like it's almost like just objectifying them and just like putting that on all women. And I feel like when you put that on all women, like it's just disrespectful.
So watching these fitness influencers, do you ever come away feeling like I want to be a man? I gotta get, I've got to bench a certain amount. I gotta get jacked.
Yeah, just feeling like I need to be bigger. Like just feeling like I need to be doing more, or whenever I am in the gym, kind of just like in my like head, I guess.
A 2025 University of Toronto study of 1,553 boys and men found that those who often saw muscular bodies, supplements, or drug content on social media were more likely to show signs of muscle dysmorphia, a condition affecting about 1 in 3 participants.
And there are a lot of people willing to sell them an answer that looks like, buy my product, keep subscribing to my podcast. I will tell you just how horrible it is to be you, how badly you're doing, and I will sell you something that will like sort of make it better, but still make you anxious.
If you're a young man, especially if you haven't maybe had particularly strong male role models in your life, and it's very interesting that those young men who are most attracted to the misogynist manosphere, let's call it that, right, the Andrew Tate type figures, they are the ones who are kind of most hungry. That those are the ones who have a vacuum of one kind or another. So the question is like, oh, well, how did that vacuum get created? How do we answer the question, how to be a man in the boy's actual life or the young man's actual life?
Well, I just told you. I told you that at the beginning of this video. I told you that answer off top. It's real simple. Lead with the best intentions. Try to treat everybody nice. Follow your heart. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
So they don't have to look for it online.
The worst of it, I would say, are male content creators who are selling men.
There he is, Kevin Samuels.
That's all about, making a lot of money, owning, a fast car. But the one thing that
these
they
are
don't
luxuries
talk about is the importance of family. Why would a man sign up to get married today when he knows that given sort of the social status of women today, that your wife could leave you at the drop of a dime and take half of what you own? So particularly to these guys, marriage is a bad deal. And it's one that the modern man should not sign up for.
And it's a complete misdirection because, there's 2 parts to that. Like the one half of it is like it's always in civilization, it's always been donned as like your 20s as being like the time to go wild and loose and have fun, whether you're a guy or a girl. 20, you're a young adult, you're fresh, you can do, you can drink, blah, blah, blah. And that's always been the mentality. So it's like when you turn 18, 21, whatever, like you get to go, you're going to parties, you're going to clubs, you're sleeping around, that's the framework. And it's been taken, and twisted into this thing where your 20s, because when I think about like how society gets portrayed in movies, a lot of the times, like some of the things I saw growing up was like, yeah, you go to college, and then in college is where you party hard or whatever. But somewhere along the way, you fall in love. So somewhere between 25 and 30, 23 and 30, after you graduate, you fall in love. You maybe find a nice girl to be with because you don't want to sleep around with a bunch of girls. You kind of realize being with one makes sense. You get married, and maybe you have a kid now or later. You live happily ever after doing whatever it is you do. That's pretty much how I always saw it as a kid. But now it's framed like your 20s are just absolutely fuck everybody, do what you want, fuck having a wife, fuck finding love, fuck having children. You gotta do it. You just gotta live your life like it's your midlife crisis right now, which is crazy because that's so damaging to that lifestyle culture where it's like, yeah, your 20s are supposed to be where you explore and find yourself, but it's also not for you to completely discard any chances of you falling in love because there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong if you end up finding your wife in your 20s, you end up having children in your 20s. It's nothing wrong with these things. These are what we would consider to be normal things that happen to most people. But, and if you want to just go around and not be committed, that's also fine. This is the time for you to explore and make that decision, but it shouldn't be the final decision in your life, right? Because you're going to change in your 30s. You're going to change in your 40s. You're going to change in your 50s. Your mindset's going to be different. And when you realize and you get to the age in which you want to have grandchildren and that you fucked up all those chances, you're going to be upset with yourself because you feel like you went down a path that you didn't actually want to go down, right? So I'm like, there's two parts to that, where it's the misunderstanding of what your 20s is about and the misunderstanding of why wanting a family or things like that is still okay to desire while sowing your wild oats in your 20s or whatever. Like you can do all these things, but a lot of these men are probably just not caring about the women that they're sleeping with, right? And it's like a lot of these women are good women, a lot of these men are good men, but you all are feeding into these toxic and bad whatever and ruining your chances of just finding actual relationships. Because I think it's one thing if like like let's say my older cousins and even my parent or my parents age group to a degree, let's say they slept around, right? In some cases it's still complex because some people slept around just to do it. Some people slept around because they just were bad at committed relationships. Some people slept around because they were meticulous about who they settled down with. And some people had many different relationships that all meant something to them. So it's like the rhetoric and the specifics of why people slept around back then is lost on this generation. They're just sleeping around because they think it's cool to sleep with different women and things like that. Not understanding that there were so many different reasons why people did that. Like, and those reasons still apply today because that's how you explore what you want. But it's not a entitlement to kind of move through that way because most of those people I think when they look back is like they probably wouldn't want to do stuff like that. They probably would just want to not have to go on 20 different dates or sleep with 20 different guys to find the right one, right? Because in each of all of that stuff there's levels of growth, of learning. Hopefully, typically there's levels of growth, learning, understanding, right? But when you're sleeping around and just simply do it because fuck women, you're not learning anything. You're not gaining anything. You're not exploring yourself. You're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable in any of these moments because you're running on a bad engine. So I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. Like I'm like personally I didn't sleep around because I'm like that's just not me. I'd rather just date someone, and I am pretty particular. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just do it the way that makes sense for me. I'm not gonna sleep around just because you we believe that's what's supposed to happen. If that falls in your lap, wonderful. But otherwise, doesn't make you any less. Just means it's something you didn't do, you know? So I'm like, that's scary. That is scary as fuck. When the message is just fuck because women aren't shit. That's some self-hate shit.
So how important is sports in finding
I never understood how you play golf like
A
this.
lot of people on the first date, they'll go, oh, so you golf. Am I going to be a single mom while you're golfing the whole time?
Michael, who asked his last name be withheld for privacy, is in his late 30s and looking for love. A co-owner of a small business, he's one of the growing number of men over 35 that's never been married.
There are times she's probably going to want to get rid of you.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Everyone I've talked to at the club who's older is always like, and if they're terrible at golf, their wife made them pick it up, so they're not at the house.
He says he's been in several long-term relationships, but hasn't yet found the one.
You've been in relationships.
I was single for pretty much all my 20s. I didn't want to be. I wanted to be in a relationship, but it was like one of those things where I hadn't found myself yet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trying to figure that stuff out.
That's what your 20s are for.
Exactly. And then
That's
in my
literally
30s,
what I said, too. That's just what I said. He said, that's what your 20s are for. It's for you to find
majority of
yourself.
my 30s I've been in relationships.
That's the mindset.
There was one person I dated for about 3 years that was just a phenomenal person. I still think the world of her. Unfortunately, we kind of got to a place where we're like, oh, God, everything's great. We should be running to go get married, but we're not.
Michael's story is becoming more common by the decade. In 1949, more than 75% of U.S. households were headed by married couples. As of 2024, that number has plummeted to just 47%.
Do you think it's becoming harder to date?
It's just different. I look at my grandparents. You know, my grandfather was a blind date with my grandma in a rowboat on Coney Island. He said, I'm going to marry you, and she thought he was crazy and took him 7 dates to kiss her. It's both easier and more difficult, I'd say, because you can find what you're looking for easier today. I mean, you have an app and you have access to everyone who's single in the area. It's like a superpower, right?
Yeah.
Like there's always something better around the corner, right? And I think a lot of people lose focus of the, you know, can I be in the here and now with the person?
What do you feel the role of a man in a relationship should be?
That's a loaded question.
What do you feel you should bring to a relationship?
Look, I think that's contingent on what the two individuals think, feel, and believe, and then how they come together. I think a very good quote, and I'm going to botch it, relationships, they're not 50-50. They're 80-20. They're 60-40. You know, like and you trade off. I think it's a dance, you know, what the roles are. There's the question of you know, how you show up, what you should do, what you shouldn't do.
Oh, I saw this
Half
one.
of men surveyed said a key reason they struggled to get a date in the past 12 months was the difficulty of approaching women.
Yeah.
A significant share of single men rely on dating apps to meet women instead.
Yeah.
One report found that the match rate for the average man on Tinder was under 3%,
Yeah.
compared to nearly 31% for the average woman.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get guys who say that perhaps, you know, they've not had luck because they're not good looking enough, or they're not tall enough, they're not, you know, they're not as fit as perhaps the women
That's what they think.
want them to be?
That's their perception of why they're not getting them.
Yeah, I
right?
think it's definitely the height part of it for sure.
This is a short guy here. This is a short guy here. You know, every time you start off with a height, you know I'm with you, brother. I'm with you, brother. We're under 5'8", we're fucked. That's life.
Minimum, they're like 5'10", you know. and that's
Minimum is
really, like,
5'10".
strong
That's
minimum.
crazy that I even got it wrong. That's crazy. I said 5'8". He just this is the reality that these single dudes are facing. It's like, bro, if you're not 7 feet tall, don't even try.
There is that height
If you're not
thing,
the
so I
same
do
height
think
as the
that
building,
that's not a
why are you
misnomer,
even
it's
here?
actually reality.
I'm sure you have male clients who are insecure about whether they make enough money to attract someone of the opposite sex.
There's so many successful women who are well educated, and these are actually clients of mine, like female clients of mine who are so well educated and have amazing careers and all these things. But I think a big thing is to have a person. They want a person who makes at least the same income as them,
which is
or
crazy
more.
for no
Percentage of
reason.
women earning-
Like, there's no reason they need to make the same income as you because we're dating. I don't see your check. I have no control over that. I don't care about how much you make. Like, you know? So
More than men in a marriage has risen dramatically. In 1972,
it's all coming from a
women
fear,
were the
though.
primary breadwinners in just 5% of households. As of 2022, it's more than tripled to 16%.
2022.
The really good
16.
thing about the old male role model of breadwinner, worker, husband, father, breadwinner, etc., was it was really clear and really simple. The trouble with it was deeply unfair, especially to women.
Mm-hmm.
So we quite rightly have changed that. But as a result of in a sense, just unbundling what it used to mean to be a man. We've created this huge confusion. And one of the things we've done is that we've reduced, I think, the incentive for men to feel like they should be in the labor force and they should be working. It's why I think women still say that they care about men's earning potential when they think about a partner. It's not because they want a man who can just let them stay home. They're not looking for an old style breadwinner. They are looking for a man who has his act together, who is skilled, who is
Mhm.
equipped, and who will be with them.
What are some of the
Mhm.
qualities that are important to you?
So what's important to me with the person is at the core of who they are. You know, like
That's
I
crazy.
want someone
That's
who
so wild. That's literally like his answer is like word for word, bro. That's crazy. I always think back to like 2022, 2021. I remember talking about that shit, and I remember saying like, yeah, when it comes down to it, like looks are one thing when it comes to like what a dude will swipe on, but I think it really just comes down to like who she is at the end of the day. Like, cause looks run out after a while. You can only fuck a good looking girl for so long before you realize she's has nothing in her brain going on other than how she looks, right? So it's like what guys want is that balance. Is like is she's beautiful, smart, and at the core a great person, right? And I think that's never really talked about, at least up until all this shit happened. Whereas like that's pretty much what guys want. It's in the movies if you pay attention. Like the guy doesn't end up with the girl who's fucking horrible, right? It's usually whoever's just has a good heart, irregardless. And my fucking shoulder is killing me. But he just spoke on it pretty much word for word. That's the issue, is that's what guys want at the core. But what girls want at the core is a guy that's seeming that it looks like they have their shit together. And in order for them to gauge that, it has to be based on how much money they make. Because for some reason that somehow indicates that even if dude could only, I'm like, that doesn't work if you're in slavery times because we ain't making shit. So I mean, and we're getting, whipped. So I don't understand what do you mean how much money I make? What does that have to do with how much love one has? So like at the end of the day, at a point, again, there was a point where all you had to do was give a girl flowers, because that was seen as such a romantic gesture and statement of how you feel about this girl as opposed to the rest of the girls in the world. Now you can't do that because it's not enough, you know. At least unless you're in a relationship already, I can buy my girlfriend flowers tomorrow, today, and she'll love them, you know. But it doesn't mean anything if I don't have any point behind it. And if you're single and you buy a girl flowers, some there there are so many stupid ass videos on this, and it just makes you think like, yeesh, bro. I see why men are going gay. I see why Diddy. See why he had the baby oil. You know what I mean?
who's driven but not
Man's just
blinded
looking
by
for
the
answers.
drive, so someone who's motivated, who wants to do something. I want someone who's says yes to fun opportunities, like, hey, I saw this thing on Instagram. This is a really cool waterfall in upstate. I wanna go check it out. It's like, absolutely, I'll get the snacks, right? Or I've already got a playlist for this. Great idea. Like to actively go do that stuff.
The challenging part is that
A dude wants they want the equivalent of their male best friend, right? At the end of the day, everybody wants to be in love with their best friend, and obviously, for if that's pretty much the goal. He just described doing something with his best friend. Hey, I found this cool thing. You want to go check it out? Yeah, I'm down. Basically, is what he just said. But he wants that in his partner. So that's pretty much that. And when you can have that, that's pretty great because it's like, yeah, you don't have to worry. Let's just go do something. Let's just
at
go
least in
do
my
something.
experience, most women still do want a guy who sees it as his role to provide for his family. And this is the tension, is that people say, we don't want men to think of themselves this way, even while expecting men to fulfill these traditional roles.
Right.
Because the fully modern man who says, you know what, I'm looking for a breadwinner wife. When you get 15 inches of snow in the winter, I can sip my hot cocoa while watching her in the window as she shovels our cars out. I don't know many women who
That'd be
want
crazy.
that kind of guy.
That'd
The
be
message you get from
crazy.
the culture is that men should sort of throw off anything that reeks of tradition and embrace anything that
hmm
smells like modernity.
Masculinity is
Modernity. That's a
defined
word.
by certain things. One of them is being the provider.
then it's like a more thing of like, well, I want to be like really, I want to be this effective leader at work. That when I'm at home,
Right.
I want to be treated in a more like typical, like more masculine, feminine type of traditional
Right.
roles type thing.
Yeah.
And I want a guy who's going to be dominant in maybe in the bedroom and certain things like that.
What adds to the confusion for the
Mhm.
men and the women in some cases?
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so confusing. It's really confusing.
It's so
If you
confusing
talk to
for no
women,
reason.
especially actually who are dating in this moment, you hear a lot of them talking about like meeting this kind of guy who professes to be a ladies' man or says that they want a relationship, but like calls women females and talks about how all they want is dinner paid for, which is really off-putting. You have these guys who, tell young men that women are out to get you, women are gold diggers and only want one certain kind of guy, and you're never going to get a girlfriend and you shouldn't even try. Except keep subscribing to this podcast and I'll tell you how to beat the odds or how you can trick women into liking you or, the products that you can buy and like the posture that you need to have to
Mhm.
get women.
Bro, the posture video is crazy. That shit is actually mind blowing. The fucking alpha male who tells you how to like move your body. Oh my god, I didn't pull that video up. I'll probably just drop it in the edit. But oh my, we got to keep going. We're almost done with this one.
Competence means nothing. Don't worry about that. Just
Competence?
do the thing first. That's why it's called men of action.
We were allowed to
Did
film
he say
one afternoon
competence doesn't matter? Hold on, bro.
clubs and dinners.
Competence means nothing.
Wow. Oh man, it does warm my heart that there's no like black man in this
Don't worry about
in
that.
this class.
Just do the thing first. That's why it's called men of action.
We were allowed to film one
Just
afternoon
do,
of
don't
Las
think.
Vegas Immersion. We were asked to blur all the attendees' faces.
Don't use your
One
brain.
client of Sartain's program agreed to speak with us.
I've talked to some of the most attractive women I've ever talked to.
Cool.
I've learned a lot of techniques on what I'm going to have to do to develop this life that I dream about.
Okay.
Nazier Montferred is a 33-year-old professional poker player from Wichita, Kansas. He's a month into Sartain's program and used different online dating coaches before Men of Action.
Pickup guys, they'll go into interactions with women and they'll say, oh, she's not gonna sleep with me, screw her, I'm gonna go to the next person. Michael's like, no, you build connections with these women, you make them your friends, and in the long term, that's gonna provide massive amounts of value to your life.
The thing that I see most common is highly intellectual guys who don't know how to communicate with the opposite sex.
To help his clients engage with the opposite sex, while in Vegas, they must approach 50 women every night.
Who
That's
here
so
was
ridiculous.
able to finish 50 approaches in a night?
None.
You guys were? Who here, at what approach did you just not care anymore? Was it 12? Was it all 50 you cared? About 10 you didn't care anymore? You know what happens? They get to 12, they get into an awesome conversation with somebody who like lives in a place they used to live, and they spend the whole night talking to this person that they just met. But shh, don't tell them that. But yeah, they never get to 50, man.
What do you mean?
They just get over their approach anxiety.
There are probably people who would look at your
But this is the problem with that shit. The approach anxiety is fine. The overcoming that is fine. But you make it frame like it's supposed to never end. The whole point is that you don't have to go through 50 women. Like if you meet a good girl at 12, hey, maybe just stop there. You can tell her like like there's that lack of trust because they believe that women believe men aren't shit. So, they gotta approach 50 women, even if the first girl they talk to is actually one that they really hit it off with. They just gotta keep going because there's always something better out there. When it's like that's just gluttony, bro. You already found someone that you can talk to. Talk to this one. You did it. You don't it'd be more impressive if you stopped at 4 because you made it. You got to what you wanted. You don't need to talk to 50. 50 is overkill. 50 is fucking when you get to the point you don't care, then it's like, okay, what's the point then? You don't care. You're just doing it. You're just a kid in high school doing your homework because and passively you don't care about it. You're just doing it to do it. You're not gaining anything from it.
program and listen to your pod and then listen to this interview and say, this guy's
But you're paying for it. You're paying
capitalizing
for these
on the
classes.
fears and the vulnerabilities of men who are really struggling here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And I would feel bad if I didn't have 4,000 guys telling me that this worked, that this changed their life. If I didn't go to weddings from my clients than I would.
If I didn't go to weddings, I wouldn't believe it.
Do you think that men are consuming content online that could be harmful to them?
Yes, they are. I absolutely believe they are. Part of that has to do with the fact that if I'm a content creator and I make content like I do, which is about solutions, it doesn't do very well on YouTube. And so a lot of these content creators, they're rewarded with more views for saying outlandish, bombastic, ostentatious things.
Right.
And the algorithm keeps rewarding them.
The definition that you ascribe to manosphere, you would be part of that manosphere.
Yes, for sure. There's good parts and bad parts. If you take the worst ideas from manosphere content, it sounds horrible. And I don't stand by it. That's why I don't consider myself red pill. I'm red pill adjacent.
Sartain?
I'm red pill adjacent. Okay. I love that. I love that. I love that cope. And he's like, I don't consider myself red pill. I'm red pill adjacent. What? Red pill by association. Okay. Okay, buddy. So you were on the island. Gotcha. You know, like, say what you want. Justify it how you want, dude. But, you know, 4,000 men being successful through your class is nice. But there's about 8 billion people on this planet. So 4,000 is nothing. There's still millions of other men who either fail, you know, or there's probably a significant more margin of men who have failed from your courses, but you're not going to talk about the ones that have failed or why they failed or why your courses didn't work for them. You're only going to point to the success stories. And I don't think there's been 4,000 men that you've helped because you didn't go to 4,000 weddings. Maybe you went to like 5, and that's great for those 5. But what about the other 10 that you didn't help, that you couldn't help? You know, because your courses don't apply to all the men because it's not how it works for everybody. You don't have a universal value. And he even said it. He was like, when videos that talk on solutions or that talk positive don't do as well as the ones that are outlandish or negative or whatever. So you are yourself saying that you promote the more toxic and negative things when it comes to this stuff because those just perform better. When I'm like, that's crazy. They perform better because those are the ones people click on. Maybe if we all just stop making negative things in the internet, the only things that'll be there are the good stuff, and they have no choice but to click on that or not engage with the internet. Even better, get off the internet. Go talk to the girl in person. Don't come ask some random dude how to talk to the girl that he has no idea who she is, what she looks like, what's important to know. He doesn't care about any of that. You do. So go get some real advice from someone in your real life. Like, I don't.
Even when you do use the term in the way that you've just defined it, which is this space that's about masculine content, it's geared towards men, it's provided for by men. Joe Rogan's the biggest platform in the world. Most of Rogan's content is not about masculinity at all. It's about
Facts.
whatever. Andrew Tate has made his name and his reputation.
It's called Your
not
Mom's
least
House.
by specifically leaning into misogynist content, and does have very prescriptive ideas about what masculinity should look like, which are hateful. But I think it's a bit like the term toxic masculinity. Is if you start using these terms to lump people together in a way that it just captures such a broad spectrum. This lumping together of different kinds of content, this pathologization of any young man who is just honestly searching for an answer, it backfires.
What ends up happening is that the circle of what is red pill and dangerous just grows larger and larger and larger. I've heard people put Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson in the same category. So if you're a guy and says, no, I like to lift weights, I like to eat red meat, all right, I like to shoot guns, what you end up doing ultimately is driving young men further and further away and into the arms of exactly the types of people you want to keep them away from.
Right.
I actually think that we have a cohort of young men who feel, to some extent fairly, that they have grown up in a world that has offered them a lot more wagging fingers than it has helping hands. It's why
Yeah.
I struggle with some of these terms, like toxic masculinity. It says, we've figured out what's wrong with you and we're going to fix you
Mhm.
rather than fix the structures and systems that serve you.
It does frustrate me a lot.
Well, there you go.
I've seen it through Ashton.
How much time we got? Oh, we're almost at the end here.
It's so hard
Holy
to tell
fuck.
a boy, like, no, you do matter. You do count. You do need to be strong. And I'm like, no, boys rule too. Like, we all rule. We all are equally important.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, frankly, we have a media that deals in sound bites and short conversations, and it's easier to
Facts.
clump everyone together and just be like,
Facts.
men, all men are
Facts.
struggling. Women, all women are succeeding, even though there are lots of gradations in there. I
It's
think
universal.
unfortunately when
She wearing a
we're
ring on
looking
her
for
ear?
solutions to problems with male identity or how sort of young men figure out how to be, the difficulty in solving that issue is that it's not really a top-down solution. I think there's already been more discussion about getting
Facts.
male teachers back into schools.
The man
So
box.
creating more third
What
and
is
social
that?
spaces. But I think a lot of the solution will have to be one-on-one. People in their communities, especially sort of parents
No,
and
she's not
older
wearing a ring.
men
Okay.
looking
I'm
around
tripping.
and
I thought that was like an engagement
looking
ring
and
on her ear.
seeing
So
younger
confused.
guys who need help and actually stepping up and talking to them. That's something we can't mandate.
You know, you call this a crisis. This is something that it's been in the making for decades.
Right.
How do we course correct?
So the first thing we should do is stop doing the bad things.
Yep.
Stop making masculinity look like something that's inherently negative. Stop publishing op-eds from mothers who bemoan having a son, who think about all of the harm that their son is going to cause,
Yep.
you know, when they get 18. And then give them examples of what it means to be a man, positive examples.
I'm telling you, it's so much easier because it's like it's all about how it's framed from the beginning. Like at the end of the day, if they see positive elements of men, just men doing good things, women doing good things, they're just gonna grow up thinking, oh, this is how a good person behaves. When it comes to being a man, there are just it's an odd thing because it makes it feel like you have an entitlement to be a certain way when there is no right way. The right way is the way that doesn't hurt yourself or other people. That's pretty much it. And just growing up with those proper values at the end of the day. And if you're seeking advice online, because let's say you can't get those values at home, right? Which is a thing, right? Not everybody has an upbringing where they can get these healthy things. So you do have to go online or you do have to get lucky and go outside of your environment, whatever. I don't know. I think it's hard because if you don't grow up without that knowledge of like there are things on the internet that are more harmful than good, and you go onto the internet looking for advice and you run into someone like an Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit, whatever, and you don't have the knowledge of like, oh, this is not correct. A solution would be have more than one source, I guess. Have more than one source. I watch more than one show. I watch more than one movie. I like more than one genre, right? Because there's different perspectives. There's different ways to look at things. Horror movies are great to give us that perspective of what are the fears that the world faced or felt at a certain time period. But romance movies, are a very different conversation, as well as action movies or science fiction movies, whatever. So I would say the same thing if you're looking for advice. Is like it's hard to trust advice from only one source. You have to get it from a lot of different places. I don't just follow the words or things that my dad spoke to me, but it's not just him, it's also my uncles, cousins, things I read, history, cultural leaders, mentors I've had in my life. Like, it all keeps going because it's like, okay, this one way that I learned is relevant and important, but this other way is also very relevant and important, and you just kind of connect them and again, make the best decisions for the moment. That's pretty much it. Um, you can't control what happens outside of that. You can only control,
You want some yogurt?
that. So,
No, I'll probably
I
have.
mean, yeah, so I guess these two young men here have been more so a kind of a positive end result, right? Of these systems and programs used in the education system, as well as like just the within the household where it's like recognizing like that boys need to hear that. And whether you have both parents or one parent, these things are always going to come up for young boys, and they need to be told that they need to be told in where these healthy things are, these healthy emotions, these healthy ways of finding yourself, um, and what to avoid. Don't don't subscribe to Fresh and Fit. It's pretty much don't subscribe to Andrew Tate. If the podcast is called Your Mom's House, probably not the best one to dive into. I think usually it's pretty obvious too, like pretty clear when it comes to stuff online. What's there to hurt you, what's there to help you, and what's there to distract you. If you have a
Well,
hard time figuring that out, then take some time offline and read some books. That's pretty much the only other answer. Take some time offline, read some books, gain some perspective from someone that's not trying to make content. There you go. Next episode, we'll do black men mental health, which is more specific. But yeah, I think that's what we'll end it here because I need to eat. With that being said, this has been the Young Talk Podcast. I'm Father B, and I will see you next time. If I didn't go to weddings, I wouldn't believe it.